What's up guys, JT Anime Nerd here bringing you all that nerdy goodness. Today I'm here to give you a glimpse at the next installment of my version of the DC Extended Universe / Snyderverse. It's none other than the long-awaited sequel to Man of Steel, Man of Tomorrow. Now, before we start, I want to give a disclaimer, as the preview you're about to see and hear involves the topic, a sensitive topic of guns in school. My decision to include a scene like that is for a pivotal story reason, so I hope you will all understand. The scene is not meant to make light of the subject and should not be taken lightly. So then, with all that said and done, I give you this preview of Man of Tomorrow. The story begins in deep space, 18,000 BC, during the Kryptonian expansion. A Kryptonian scout ship is zooming across space. Meanwhile, within the ship, two fully armored Kryptonians carrying blasters are running as fast as they can away from something, which turns out to be the scout ship's drones. One of the Kryptonians hits a button and closes a door in front of them, needing reinforcement drones to attempt to blast the door multiple times to get through. From within the sealed hallway, the two Kryptonians discard their armor, revealing them to be Alora Zor-El and her daughter, a young Kara Zor-El. Alora looks around and sees the Kryptonian pods filled with Kryptonians in hypersleep. Alora then attempts to release one of the Kryptonians, being that out of her husband, Zor-El, but the pad to open the pod denies her. Alora then tells Kara that it's not letting any of the pods open. Kara expresses how scared she is, but Alora then pulls Kara to somewhere else. A moment later, Alora brings Kara down to a hidden room where one last pod is stored. Alora then states that this pod is disconnected from the ship's mainframe, and so it can't connect to it. Alora then tells Kara to get in while she goes to save her father from what she calls the algorithm. Kara begs Alora not to leave her, but Alora states that she'll return for her, and if not, instructs Kara to devote each day to finding her way back to Krypton and find her aunt Lara. Alora then reminds Kara to always remember what the symbol on her chest stands for: hope. Alora then closes the pod and places a scared Kara in stasis. Back at the hallway, Alora locks the sealed hidden entrance, blaster in hand. Alora then sees the door across the hall all she locked open, with the Kryptonian scout drones entering the hallway. Alora then runs in another direction, ending up in the engine bay. Alora then activates and types into a panel, about to activate the ship's phantom drive. Alora then closes her eyes, begging Rao to give Kara hope. Outside the ship, after Alora presses a button, the phantom drive is activated and the ship is warped into the Phantom Zone. After a huge flash, the title card of Man of Tomorrow is presented. Before we continue, I just want to give a shout out to today's Amazon affiliate product, which is the DC Encyclopedia New Edition. Catch up with the latest in what's happening in the DC universe within the comics, all collected in one major book. All you need to do is go down into the description and pinned comment and click on that affiliate link so you can purchase this book, as well as help us earn money to expand the channel and give you higher quality content. So with all that said and done, let's get back to the video. In present-day Smallville, Kansas, police are outside of Wessinger Primary School. A nearby reporter is reporting that a 14-year-old boy named Jimmy Osgood, a student who has been rumored to be the victim of non-stop bullying at the hands of his peers, with the school doing little to stop it. The reporter states that Jimmy threatened the staff to leave the building or he would shoot them, leading the school and staff and faculty to evacuate the building under duress. Meanwhile, in the school cafeteria, Jimmy is holding the kids who have been bullying him, named Nick, Connor, Kevin, and Ray, at gunpoint as the three bullies are crouching down and shedding tears in fear. Jimmy is yelling at the three bullies, asking them if they want to mess with him now, as he aims the gun closer to them in intimidation. Meanwhile, outside the school, a blue and red blur can be swiftly seen entering the main doors of the school. Back in the school, Jimmy threatens to shoot if the bullies don't stay down, asking them how it feels to be helpless for once. Suddenly, the main doors into the cafeteria open very gently, as Jimmy turns to point the gun in its direction. With no words and an expression of genuine and solemn sympathy, Superman walks calmly and slowly in front of Jimmy in order to block a possible bullet's path to the kids behind him. Jimmy tells Superman to stay back or he'll shoot, leading Superman to just kneel down on one knee. reaching eye level with Jimmy. Superman acknowledges that Jimmy must be scared, just like all the kids here, hiding and trying to keep themselves from getting hit by a bullet. Jimmy aggressively states that he's not scared, not anymore. Superman, however, states that even in these moments, everyone is scared, including the one meaning to do harm. Jimmy, however, calls it self-defense, finally standing up for himself after months of bullying from the three kids hiding behind Superman, who are still crouched down in fear. Superman then calmly states that he knows that's what this is. That they made him feel alone, scared, and unnatural. Superman then states that his bullies made him feel the same way when he was his age. This revelation causes Jimmy to calm himself for a moment, surprised that someone as powerful as Superman could ever know pain. Superman then explains that it was around the time he was still learning about his powers, until eventually he learned what he was and what he could do. Jimmy asks him if he ever wanted to make the people who hurt him pay, which Superman confirms that he did feel that way at those times. He was a kid, alone, scared, and angry at the world for the hand he was dealt with, to the point where he wanted to fight back, even hurt them back when they haven't done anything to him at that moment. But someone close to him taught him that the best way to get back at the people who hurt him is to just live. Superman states that it won't be easy, but if you can live and become a positive example to everyone, then the people who hurt you will eventually pick up on that, becoming better people in the process. Superman explains that it doesn't work with everyone, but if you're willing to take that chance away from them, then are we really better than the people who hurt us? As Jimmy still aims the gun at Superman, shedding tears of inner conflict, Superman calmly holds his hand out, seemingly asking Jimmy to give him the gun without exchanging any words. Jimmy then slowly begins to seemingly give his gun to Superman. Meanwhile, outside, the police, the press, and the people seem to be on edge, wondering what's happening inside the building. Suddenly, the sound and flash of a gunshot is seen and heard from inside the school, inciting panic among the people outside. Just then, the main doors open with the kids all running out to reunite with their parents, escaping the terrifying situation. As the last of the kids run out of the school, Superman slowly walks out, carrying a crying Jimmy in his arms. Jimmy's parents then notice them, prompting them to run to their son. Superman then hands them Jimmy, who apologizes to his parents as he continues to cry, with him stating that it's going to be okay. Meanwhile, Superman opens his left palm, dropping the remnants of the now crushed gun. Moments later at Kent Farm, Clark Kent returns, Lois, Jimmy, and Lucy greeting him, with Jimmy and Lucy holding their child, Lawrence Lane Olson. A moment later, Clark and his new extended family are all eating around the dinner table. At the side, Lawrence, aka Larry for short, is seen wearing a makeshift cape and pretending to fly around on the living room. Jimmy asks Larry if he likes the present Uncle Clark gave him, to which Larry agrees, as he expresses how he wants to be like Superman one day. Larry's words create a smile on the family's faces, especially Clark's. As Larry hops up on Jimmy's lap, he asks Jimmy if he and Superman are best friends, to which Jimmy replies that he'd like to think so. This being because they've had at each other's backs from time to time during a few jobs he took for the Daily Planet. Larry asks if he thinks Jimmy can get him to meet Superman, but Jimmy replies that he's much too busy saving people. However, Jimmy points out that Superman did show up at a school once to surprise a boy being bullied, referencing the scene in Shazam. With that knowledge, Jimmy then states that maybe he might get to meet Superman one day, but only when he has the time. These words bring a smile to Clark's face, followed by him looking down at the Daily Planet article about Superman saving the lives of kids in a hostage crisis, and the life of a bullied boy with a gun. Moments later, Jimmy and his family take their leave in their family car as Clark looks out the window, witnessing their leave. Lois then approaches Clark, asking him if he wants her to pack any essentials before going back to Metropolis. However, Clark states that he can hear them, Lois asking what exactly he can hear. Clark clarifies that he can hear the second heartbeat, and that they should schedule an ultrasound. But Clark then states that she shouldn't call him Clark. Clark is dead, and the world believes that too. Lois then shows a solemn expression, Clark mistaking it for fear. Clark states that it won't hurt her, the baby, as without the energy of the sun, it can't develop any powers and so won't destroy her from the inside. Despite this, Lois argues with Clark about being dead, stating that maybe it's time he returns to the real world. Clark then states that he was lucky not to be noticed by the crowd after the Mother Box incident, claiming that it's better that the world has Superman, not Clark Kent, and appreciates Jimmy and his family keeping his secret that he's alive. Lois, however, is adamant on arguing with Clark, stating that Clark Kent's stories have saved as many people as Superman. Clark makes it clear that what she said is just not true, as Superman's actions can save the many while Clark Kent's stories can only save the few, and he'd rather stick with the former because he knows it works. Lois then hugs Clark, telling him that she married Clark, not Superman, and that it's Clark who's going to be a father, not Superman. Clark, however, states that they're one and the same, and that they can't have one without the other. Lois then simply continues to hug Clark as he holds her in his arms, Lois relenting, finally admitting that he's right. Lois forces herself to admit that Superman and Clark Kent are truly the same person, but points out that the question is if Clark himself truly knows that. Meanwhile, in space, a wormhole seemingly opens, spewing out what appears to be multiple metallic objects down toward Earth. As the objects enter the Earth's atmosphere in separate directions, the military's computers detect it, leading them to call it in. On Earth, one of the metallic objects lands in the middle of the desert, forming a large crater at the center of the area. The next morning, a military unit arrives on the scene, the metallic object still in its place. From within one of the convoy vehicles stepped out the leader of this unit, portrayed by Tommy Lee Jones. Moments later, as the military unit arrives at the military base, General Swanwick intercepts, asking why he wasn't called on for this possible state of emergency. A lieutenant tells him they were ordered to retrieve the unidentified object. Swanwick then questions on whose authority, to which the leader of the unit states on his authority, introducing himself as General Samuel Lane. Swanwick then points out how no one seems to be telling him why he was not called in, to which Sam replies because it was him they called, as the higher-ups agree that Swanwick's history with extraterrestrials has been rather personal and possibly biased, and therefore sees his relationship with one and is seen as detrimental to any missions involving extraterrestrial activity. Swanwick, however, argues that if he's referring to Superman, then he points out how Superman has protected Metropolis and this world 100 times over. General Lane, however, argues that Superman's a threat to national security, and if not for him, Earth wouldn't have had to suffer through 2 invasions. Swanwick argues that he was raised on Earth as a baby and didn't ask for anything to come after him. General Lane then laughs at Swanwick, asking him if that's what Superman told him, followed by stating to never believe the lies of an interloper. Meanwhile, in the wilds of Australia, one of the metallic objects, now identifies as a sort of pod, opens up to reveal none other than Faora free from the Phantom Zone. Faora falls out of the pod, catching her breath as a result of seemingly being long in stasis. After gaining her footing, Faora pulls out an odd device, looking like it's meant to connect to something. The device bears a strange symbol on it, a strange V shape with circular nodes at the ends of them. As Faora looks ahead, she takes her leave, the destination still being a mystery. Back in Smallville, Lois returns with Martha Kent from grocery shopping, only to find Clark glaring at the TV with news breaking about the multiple objects that fell from the sky and have landed on various parts of the globe. The news report then states that governments from each part of the world the objects landed in are investigating as we speak, with the American government rumored to have acquired the one that has landed in America. As Clark continues to glare at the television, Lois places her hand on Clark's shoulder, reassuring him that it may just be nothing. and that there are problems that not even Superman can solve every time. Clark holds Lois's hand, deciding to take her words into account, but still worries that trouble may yet be on the horizon. Meanwhile, at the army base, scientists are analyzing the metallic pod that they have discovered, its contents being hidden behind a shade of frost coating the inside of the glass. As General Lane waits within a room looking down into the chamber that holds the pod, he is then approached by none other than Amanda Waller, who has entered the room. Waller greets General Lane, who shows her nothing but respect, especially when mentioning that they both served together in the army. General Lane then states that if Waller's here, then he assumes Cadmus wants to weigh in on this project. Waller then confirms General Lane's words, as she states that ever since the red and blue man from the sky came to Earth, not having any control over Superman is sickening, and Cadmus just so happens to agree. General Lane then asks if Waller believes it's Kryptonian tech, with her stating that she knows it's Kryptonian tech, stating that Cadmus spy drones have been easily able to discern the technology's origin long before these scientists ever can. General Lane, however, wonders what they are to do with whatever's inside the pod, with Waller stating that if it is what she thinks it is, then she already has 7 walking bombs under her heel, so what's one more for the arsenal, referring to Task Force X. General Lane asks Waller if Cadmus has discerned the location of the other pods, with Waller confirming that 3 other pods have been found in Russia, China, and Afghanistan, with the one in Afghanistan being found empty. General Lane then turns to Waller with a surprised expression, asking where the subject could have gone. That night, on an airfield in Afghanistan, Faora stealthily kills the pilot and crew, followed by breaking off a piece of the plane's controls and connecting it to the strange device she's been carrying, allowing something sentient to control it and lead her to where she needs to go. Faora then looks at what appears to be a built-in map on her armor's wrist, an add-on of unknown origin, showing Faora where she plans to go, as well as be presented with purple glowing glyphs and symbols that are not native to Krypton. Meanwhile, on Kent Farm, Clark and Lois are in bed, Lois sound asleep. However, Clark begins acting strange, as if he's having a nightmare. Within Clark's mind, he's once again in the vision of a doomed Earth, now in his black suit, the ground covered in the skulls of humanity that we once sunk into. Superman then suddenly hears a familiar voice. "How many Kryptonians had to die so you could live your human life, Kal-El?" Superman looks on in shock as he sees the mental image of General Zod. Superman claims that he's not real, but Phantom Zod states that what happened was real, that his death was real, a death by the hands of Earth's savior. General Zod then asks Superman why it haunts him, the sound of his neck breaking, the feeling of a life's ending by Kal's hands with ease. Superman claims that it doesn't, but Zod states that he's lying, stating that he knows it's eating him up inside, the symbol of peace and love turning out to be a murderer. However, Zod points out what's just as strange is humanity's ease to simply gloss over such a fact, leading Superman to give the excuse that humanity forgave him and understood his situation. However, Zod questions Superman on if it's really forgiveness that humanity possessed on hearing this news, or was it just that they didn't care as long as it wasn't a human life? Zod then asks the most important question of all. If humanity will overlook the death of a life not born of Earth, then does this world deserve a Superman? And more importantly, is this the planet you want to raise your child on? Clark then wakes up in a fright, Lois waking up as a result. Seeing Clark in such a state, Lois hugs him to assure him that he's alright. Lois then asks if Clark's okay, but Clark states that he's not. Lois then gently asks how Clark's actually feeling, with Clark replying that he's terrified. And when Lois asks him of what, Clark then states that he's terrified of himself and what he's done. Lois asks Clark what he means, leading Clark to state that he could have found another way to stop Zod without killing him. He could have been more vigilant, taken the fight out of Metropolis, but instead he was so focused on protecting Lois and his family that he didn't bother to think about everyone else around him who suffered the most. Realizing that this is why Clark believes Superman is needed and not Clark, Lois asserts that Superman didn't have any other options, that he made a choice, and that choice saved Jimmy and his family. However, Clark reminds Lois of the damage that battle caused, stating that he should have been a better Superman, otherwise Zod or Lex would have never caused as much suffering as they had. And now, a better Superman is what he has to be from now on. Clark then states that he's going for a fly to take his mind off things, to which Lois simply tells him to be careful, and remember that they're all here for him whenever he needs them. Clark simply looks back at Lois, giving her a gentle nod of agreement, a forced smile adorned on his face. Meanwhile at Star Labs, Faora has arrived at the Kryptonian scout ship, ready to enact whatever she came here to do. As Faora infiltrates the closed building, she stealthily kills every guard she comes across until she gains access to the scout ship. The moment she enters the scout ship's flooded main chamber, the same one used to revive Superman, Faora then injects the strange device into the main console, taking control of the scout ship. Mysterious lines of purple energy then envelop the scout ship from the inside, catching the attention of passers-by who notice the light within the facility. As the light enters deeper into the scout ship, it triggers the secret entrance to the hidden Phantom Drive chamber. Within the chamber lays a single pod, the glass covered in frost from the inside. As the purple lines reach the chamber, the pod is triggered to release, the lid swiftly opening, and the freezing smoke inside being released. Within the pod lays a lone Kara Zor-El, now older, portrayed by Amanda Seyfried. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out our merch store, buy me a coffee page, and Amazon affiliate link linked in the description and pinned comment below, so you can help us expand the channel and give you guys higher quality content. Also, if you want to check out our original content, be sure to check out the playlists linked in the description below. With all that said and done, I'm JT Anime, and I'll check you guys later.